Today I would like to take a few minutes and provide a review of the Walther P22 semi-automatic handgun that I recently purchased. My wife and I went to one of the major national hunting and fishing retailers looking for a .22 handgun for my wife because my Ruger 9mm and my Smith & Wesson .38 revolver are too big for her hand. We chose this Walther P22 over other smaller handguns because it seemed to fit my wife's hands well, and the action and the trigger pull seemed easy to use. Knowing that some semi-automatic .22 handguns have a problem ejecting empty brass and loading a new round, I asked the salesman at this national gun retailer if there was an issue with this gun. He said no problem. In fact, he brought over a box of shells and he said these will work fine. Well, we took the gun to the firing range and immediately discovered that the gun jammed repeatedly, did not cycle out the spent shell and chamber a new round for firing. Later, when I called Walther's customer service, I was actually quite surprised at their attitude. They're aware of this problem, and their position is that they say it only works reliably with 4 specific brands of .22 long rifle ammunition. However, I will say there is nothing in the manual about this weakness, the shortcoming of the gun, and of course the retailer didn't know about it, or they didn't share it. This is kind of like a car manufacturer saying that a new car runs on regular gas, but it really only runs well on premium gas. And in an era where customer service for many products has improved over the years, this gun manufacturer apparently seems to say, hey, take it or leave it. Since gun sales in South Carolina are final, I am stuck with the gun. After the first trip to the range, we went to the range again, and we used a different brand of ammunition, .22 long rifle. It did work better, but not well. I had to use a different ammo because due to the shortage of .22 long rifle ammunition in the Myrtle Beach area, I was not able to buy any of the specifically recommended brands of .22 long rifle. After cleaning the gun the second time, I loaded a full round of 10 shells in the magazine, and then I tried to cycle the 10 rounds without shooting, just to check the action. The gun refuses to eject an unfired round and load the next one. I called Walther again, suggesting that maybe the ejector is flawed. Again, they say the gun will not cycle rounds, and that told me that that is not the way the gun is designed to operate. I suggested that this is a safety issue because you cannot easily clear the gun. They say this is not a problem because you can pry out the non-ejected shell. As a former NRA instructor for about 15 years, I really disagree. So, we see that this gun is flawed and only usable with 4 specific brands of ammunition that provide reliable shooting. And due to the shortage of .22 long rifle ammunition on the East Coast, it is difficult to find these. In fact, the only one readily available is the CCI Mini Mag, and they are usually limited in quantity. Before I go, I'd like to point out a design issue that, quite frankly, is inexplicable to me, and in today's environment of high consumer expectations, I think is inexcusable on the part of Walther. The issue arises when you take down the gun, remove the slide, and it has to do with the spring. Here is the spring that comes with the gun. As you can see, it's a long spring and it slides over that spindle. However, in order to reinsert the slide, you actually need to use this Walther provided plastic dowel in order to keep the slide from kinking as you're trying to compress the spring when you're sliding the action over the handle. Now, Walther is aware of this problem with this loose spring, and they do provide this spindle, as you can see. But it's surprising to me that they would allow this design to continue to be put out in the marketplace. On the internet, I found a third-party enclosed spring. As you can see, it works fine, relatively inexpensive, and it makes the takedown, cleaning, and reassembly of the gun a much easier process. In concluding on this, it seems to me that you spend several $100s on a gun, and because of a poor design consideration with such a loose spring, that the manufacturer has to provide a 1-penny piece of plastic dowel to make it easier to reassemble. I think that pretty much speaks for itself. Before I go, I'd like to sum up the review. I find it surprising that Walther would continue to sell this gun in a consumer-oriented environment that has a design weakness and also an operational weakness with regards to certain ammunition. It is a good gun, and it met our requirements for having a nice, easy to handle, easy to fire, easy to move the action gun for my wife. However, the fact that it is not reliable, with the exception of 4 specific brands of ammunition, 2 of which I have not even been able to find over the last couple of months, coupled with the design issue where they have this loose spring with the slide action, and you need a 1-penny plastic dowel in order to fix it, in order to get it in the gun properly, as compared to a nicely designed closed spring provided by a third party. It just, I don't recommend buying this gun, because Walther has a few things they should fix on this, and in which event it will be a fine firearm.